Alright guys, this is part 2 of 3 of converting a closed system to the open system. If you missed part 1, go back and check it out right here. And don't forget to check out the website, BleepinJeep.com, and subscribe below. Let's get started once again. Alright, next I'll just clean off these fittings a little bit, and then I'll remove this bracket since we won't be needing it anymore. Now it's time to put on the new thermostat housing. I'll just clean that up a bit. Alright, so I'm ready to put the new thermostat housing on, but before I do, make sure to put the thermostat in there, and we're going to put that little hole that I drilled at the top, just like that. There we go. Now I'll put some gasket on here. Once I got a good even coat on there, I'll pop it in place and bolt it in. Alright, so now that we're cooking along here, I've run into a slight problem. I've got both the hoses that I need. I've got a 3/4 hose and a 5/8 hose. Now, the flow is supposed to come out of the thermostat housing here and into the bottom of the heater core here, and then out of the top of the heater core and into this tube here, which goes to the pump. Now the problem is that this pipe here is 3/4 and the bottom one over here is 5/8, and vice versa over here. This top is 3/4 and this is 5/8. So I've got the right size tubing here, but I do need to cut them in half and splice them together so that I can connect them on the ends. Now you could just run from the thermostat housing to the top of the heater core here, but I don't recommend that because you'll be reversing the flow in the heater core, and that can cause some air entrapment issues. So for right now, I'm just going to skip this step until I can get some adapters to go 5/8 to 3/4 and vice versa. Alright, so the next step is to prepare the radiator to match the other radiator here. Now, if you have the money, I would recommend just buying a 3-core radiator that's specific for the later model Jeeps, and everything should bolt up just fine. But I'm using this junkyard one here, and the quick disconnects are a little bit different. On this newer model, it's got some kind of trick here where you have to push these in and try to pop it out at the same time. So I'm going to work on that, and hopefully after I get that off, everything should still work just fine, I'm hoping. I think there's a tool, or I know there's a tool to get this off, which I don't have, of course, so I'm just going to stick some screwdrivers in there and try and pop this thing out. There we go. Now I've carefully removed the quick connector from the old one, and we'll put it on the new one, and we'll try to reuse that. Now I'll put the new radiator back in. These pins right here go in those holes down there. There we go. Might want to make sure you clean it before you put it in, if you've got any debris on there. And I didn't realize this until now, but the radiator hoses are different. This is the 2001 hose, and it doesn't go around the compressor here. So if you're going to be getting a new hose, you'll want to get the old hose for your model Cherokee. Okay, when I took that old radiator out, something was missing right here because the AC condenser was just floating in there. So this is where you kind of have to use your brain and your common sense to figure out how this all should go back together, since it's kind of custom. But I found these bolts here in my spare box, and it looks like they'll fit right in there and hold the AC condenser against the radiator here, and that'll be a lot better than it was. And this newer radiator has a little bracket to hold that in place, so that's good. And now you should be able to put this top plate back on. Squeeze it in there. Make sure everything lines up good. Then use your hardware from before and bolt everything back together. Now I'll just inspect the O-ring. It looks pretty good. There's 2 O-rings in there for the transmission line. I'm going to try and keep those, and then we'll snap it into place, and hopefully that'll work out. Then I'll connect the upper transmission line back together here, and tighten it down. And the radiator hose. Alright, so I left out a few things earlier. You're going to need some distilled water. I don't think I mentioned that. That's if you're going to mix your antifreeze. You can buy the pre-mixed stuff, but that's just a waste of money. I also bought some extra hose clamps. You'll probably need those. You'll need a 5/16 inch hose, which this is fuel hose. This is just going to be for the overflow bottle, and I got about 6 feet of that. I picked up those vacuum caps that I talked about. This is the right size, and I got an assortment here. And I also picked up the heater hose connector that goes from 3/4 to 5/8. I got 2 of those. The part number is 47080 in the help section. And so what I'll do is I'll just take these hoses that I have here. This is the 3/8, this is the 5/8. I'll cut these in half, and then I'll just put them together. Alright, so now I've got 2 hoses again, except they go from 3/4 to 5/8 and 5/8 to 3/4. Okay, so now I'll just connect everything together. Make sure to put your hose clamps on first. And 5/8 goes down here. And the 3/4 goes up here to the thermostat housing. I'll put the upper hose back on while I'm at it, and then we'll tighten everything down on this side. Now before I connect the other side, I want to clean everything up a little bit, so I'm going to put these together right here, and then I'll zip tie them here, and then I'll zip tie them onto this post right here. Now I'll just cut the other ends to length and put them where they belong. Alright, it's kinked up a little bit right here, so I need to make a slight adjustment for that, but other than that it looks really good. Alright, so now it's time to find the perfect spot for your overflow bottle. This is the one off of the later model Cherokee, like I mentioned before. Now the best spot I found is going to be right here where the old one was. The only problem is there's some vacuum lines and stuff down there that you kind of have to either squish or move out of the way. Later on I'm going to take those vacuum lines out whenever I do the axle conversion, the 1-piece to 2-piece, and I'll probably end up sticking it right down in there. It wedges in there pretty good. If you leave it up like that, it'll hit the hood. If you tilt it back like that, the hood will compress on it too. But you can also put it over here on this side, if you've gotten rid of your stock air box, but that's not really a good solution either, because it's not a good way to bolt it down there, and it'll kind of be flopping around everywhere. So there's no real perfect place to put this bottle. You can go searching for a different bottle, but I've never found one that's a perfect bolt-in anywhere. Maybe some of those AutoZone bottles, but those are real cheap, and I don't like those. But for now, we're just going to stick it right over there and just jam it in there. Alright, so the next step is to run this hose from the radiator cap here all the way over to the bottle over there. But before I can do that, I need to put the fan back in so that I can have something for the hose to sit on top of here. And it would also help if I had a fan shroud over here for the clutch fan, which I don't have that fan shroud, so we'll have to get one of those. And since I don't have that fan shroud like I should, I need to be very careful about securing this hose up here out of the way. Alright, that's pretty clean and tidy. I think that'll work until I can get the fan shroud from the junkyard. Next we're going to work on getting the auxiliary fan back up and running off of the new temperature switch. Alright guys, once again this video is getting really long. This is a 3-part video. You're watching the second part. So just click right here to go on to the third part. Don't forget to check out the website, BleepinJeep.com, and go to our Facebook page and like that as well. Don't forget to subscribe down below. We'll see you next time. I appreciate it.